Hi, educators, welcome back. Here we make teaching research informed, classroom ready, and joyful. Today, I will walk you through how to teach a STEAM lesson using the Madeline Hunter lesson cycle. What exactly does STEAM stand for? It stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But the magic happens when we integrate them all. Kids learn to think creatively, solve problems, and collaborate just like real world innovators. Why does STEAM work so well in an EC through 6 setting? Well, it builds creativity, it strengthens their resolve for problem solving, it helps them to work collaboratively, and it also encourages real world thinking. Now let's jump into the Madeline Hunter lesson cycle. This model gives us a clear structure. We have the anticipatory set, the objective, input, modeling, guided practice, independent practice, closure, and assessment. And today I'll show you how each step supports STEAM learning. So let's jump into the anticipatory set. Here I start with the challenge. How can we safely transport a fragile object using everyday materials? And then I will model this mini challenge. All of this sparks creativity, curiosity, and gets the students thinking like little engineers. The lesson objectives or the learning objectives are the objectives that you'll put in your lesson plan, and this will help guide you throughout your lesson. So, the input and modeling. I teach the engineering design process, which we'll discuss more later. And here is where I give them all of the background information about our lesson. I show them all the materials that they're going to need, and I also give them any relative information or real world information to tie in to the lesson. So let's jump into the design process. Here we will ask them questions. We'll help them to be creative and use their imagination. We'll help them to plan. We'll help them use higher order thinking skills by asking them to create something. We'll have them test it, and we'll help them improve it and evaluate it. So part of the modeling is where I show them exactly what they need to do. I teach them this process, and then I model this challenge, and I think aloud as I do it so the students can hear my reasoning and my choices. The next section is the guided practice, and this is the we do. So here I give them an assignment, and students will work in teams on this other challenge, which is called the Egg Transport Challenge. As a group and in small teams, they design, test, and redesign their prototype to help them move their fragile eggs. And creativity and collaboration and problem solving really shine here. Also, throughout this process, I'm walking around the room. I'm looking at what each group is doing. I'm asking questions. I'm answering questions and facilitating this exercise. Then we move into the independent practice. This can be done in class, where we again walk around the room to facilitate and answer any questions, but it could also be a project that they do at home. So here, students work on their own and they create their own STEAM lesson using a real world problem that they come up with, and at least three STEM disciplines have to be utilized. So this will build confidence and prepare them for creativity and for the future. So the last two components of the lesson cycle are closure and assessment, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But the closure is where I have them reflect. I'll give them a few prompts or a prompt, and here is where they'll actually reflect on what worked, what didn't work, how they could do things differently. And with the assessments, I'll give them a formative and possibly even a summative assessment depending on where we are in the lesson. So, as a formative assessment, it could be something as simple as of observing them and what they're doing in the group work or an independent practice. It could be a thumbs up. It could even be a think, pair, share, or an exit ticket you could utilize. And then, of course, the summative assessment could be the rubric for the project. It could be a quiz, it could be a theme test, or a chapter test, unit test, something of that nature. So, even though this differentiation is not technically part of the Madeline Hunter lesson cycle, it is something that should be integrated into every lesson. We have to make sure that we differentiate every lesson so that we're meeting the needs of all of our learners, whether they're English language learners or they have a some other constraint that they might need some extra assistance with. If you found this helpful, hit the like, subscribe, and share this with another pre-service teacher or an early career educator. And remember, keep teaching with creativity, confidence, and make it fun. I'll see you in class.